With society's endless expectations upon you and mental health and anxiety issues on the rise, finding your true authentic self can be challenging. Being your true self is a key and never a mistake because you are not a mistake. You are you, unapologetically. Join Dr. Kim R. Grimes as she creates a safe space and initiates influential conversations about you being you. Listen to discussions featuring step-by-step guides, techniques, and principles that you can sink your teeth into about uncovering your greatness, triggering a mindset shift, and living beyond your limiting beliefs. The time to connect with who you were created to be and fall madly, did I say madly, in love with you, starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Kim R. Grimes.
Hello, and welcome everyone. Welcome back. I am so excited that you are here with us again. Thank you. I want you guys to know that I do not take it lightly at all for you being here. I want you to know that I appreciate and I'm grateful and I'm humbled that you're taking the time out just to spend with us. And so for that, I want to make sure that I bring on guests that's going to serve you, that's going to not really say entertain you, but that's going to give you some value for what it is that you may be going through today or in the space that you're in right now. We are still in our Overcoming the Challenges of Self-Love series. Yes, we're still there. And I have an awesome guest that's going to share with us today his experience as well. And so I gave it away. I made you aware that it's a he and not a she. So let's just jump right in. I want you guys to know, and I start with this just to give us an overview of this session or this conversation that is. With society's rigid expectations, it can be hard. It can be hard to find your true identity. The feeling of being lost in today's clashing ideas, conflicting beliefs, COVID, and the flood of information can be overwhelming. Most people, they dumb down or they hide, right? Who they really are. But that's not what this show is about. We don't want you to hide. But as a result of them hiding and dumbing down, it pushes them into just going with the flow rather than expressing themselves authentically, right? There are so many opinions, ideas today that can make it hard for you to find your true self. So don't just go with what everyone else is doing. Because like I said, it's just going to lead you down a path where your creativity gets dampened because you're trying not to show your true self or who you really are. Where we want approval, right? We go and look for approval from everyone instead of looking for approval from ourselves, from within our inner core. And when you do that, know that it is so empowering. So you are you unapologetically. It means being true to who you are, to who you were created to be, and not allowing people's opinions to affect how you show up in life. You have no time, absolutely no time, to be intimidated by the presence of others and to think so little of yourself. When you show up without pretense and without hesitation, the world can't dull your glamour. And most importantly, this is the big one. And most importantly, you will be inspired to share your light. You will be inspired to share who you are. You will be inspired to help others to share their light and to help others tap into their brilliance. So again, today we're talking about overcoming the challenges of self-love while falling madly. Did I say madly? In love with who you are. Our guest today, I actually met him, was introduced to him, and I had an opportunity to speak on his live podcast. And so it was really, really exciting, and it was such a wonderful time that I said to him, "You must come on mine. You must come on my podcast." And he was like, "Absolutely. I'm there, absolutely." And so I would like to introduce you to our guest. But before I do, I just want to give you a little brief introduction of him. You know, we want to do things formally, right? Do it right. And so I want you guys to please help me welcome Billy Graham Jr. He is a global speaker, a coach, trainer, and after serving 25 years in the military, and it's the Air Force, because I want you guys to know that, because you all know I'm Army, but he did 20 years in the Air Force. He is now focused on developing leaders and teams. Billy coaches with transparency and conviction by allowing others to see into his life. How amazing is that? Because sometimes we have to see it to believe it. He will challenge you to demand more from yourself and to hold yourself to a higher standard. Please help me welcome our guest, Mr. Billy Graham Jr. Welcome, Billy.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. That was an amazing introduction. I was sitting there like, who is that amazing person?
You, and I had the opportunity to be introduced to you and meet you and like I said, share being on your podcast, and it was just wonderful. Like your energy, your well, you know what? I'm just going to let you guys see it because Billy he's just amazing, and he has so much to share. And so first, before we get into it, and like I said, this is a discussion. It's not like an interview. I want my listeners to know that, you know, I send questions just to make sure that, you know, they know what we're talking about and they don't feel like we're caught off guard. We don't want to do that because the topic is so, it's so challenging at times. And so I want to make sure that our guests have what they need prior to it. But before we get into our discussion, I want you, please, to share with our audience how we met.
So, how we met. So I was introduced to an amazing young woman by the name of Raven Thistle. And they were like, you got to have her on the show. And I'm like, hey, if somebody wants to come on the show, come on. I want the world to meet everybody because I believe we all have something we can share. We all do. And so after meeting and talking to her on the show and like talking to her after the show, and she just was like, I have somebody you have to meet. And I'm like, what is this? To meet everybody? I was like, come on, you don't have to tell me. Just whoever the individual is, if you bring them, I want to meet them, because it's one thing to talk about yourself. Mm-hmm. But when others talk about you, like that means you're doing something to change in their life. Absolutely. So whenever somebody says like, you got to meet somebody, you're right. I do have to meet them because that's an amazing individual. If somebody's saying and vouching for you on your behalf. So once she introduced me and she was like, just send her a text. And I'm like, that's not a problem. I can do this all day long. And then when I finally got to meet you and talk with you, your aura, your personality, just everything about you was glowing.
Thank you.
And I loved it because so many people in the world dim their own light so others can shine. Mm-hmm. And when I saw your light shining, I'm like, I love it because she's not dimming her light. She's letting it shine for the world, because you don't believe it or not, you are the light for somebody that's in darkness right now.
That is
And
so
you're the
true.
light that's helped guiding their way. So I thank you for what you do. You are
Yes.
amazing. And I really love Raven for introducing us, because now you're a part of my family and I'm a part of yours.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Billy. And you're so correct. You are so correct. And so, and I want our audience to know that it worked in reverse as well, because Raven said to me, "Oh, you have to meet Billy. You have to meet Billy. And wait, you have to get on his show." And I was like, count it done. Count it done. And it was that quick. I mean, instant. Like she actually did it was a text introduction, was it not?
Yep.
So I want our audience to know that we never met face to face, right? We met through technology.
Yes.
Which is still amazing. It is still amazing. So I was just as excited to meet Billy as Billy was excited to meet me. And I'm even more excited because I know what Billy, is going to share, right? I don't know all the details, but because of who he is and how he shows up, you guys are just, in for a huge treat. And so with that, let's jump into our discussion. The name of the podcast is called You Are You Unapologetically. And so what I want to ask you is, or to start the conversation is, what does it mean to you, Billy, to be you unapologetically?
For one, I love the name of the show, To Be You Unapologetic. So to be me, and I want to put this little caveat on it.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned about the questions, and to be me unapologetically is to be authentic.
Come on.
And so I received the email, but I refused to look at the questions, because I wanted, however you asked them, however they came up during our discussion, our conversation, I want it to be authentic.
Yes.
I don't believe in, I read the questions, let me memorize my answers.
Mm-hmm.
I want the viewers to just know that it's coming from the heart.
Yes.
It's coming from my experiences in life and things that I've just learned over time. So to be me unapologetically is to just be authentic. Today we call it keeping it 100.
Right.
But
right.
Basically I keep it 100, keep it authentic. You're going to get me as I am, whether I'm in my house, whether I'm in public, where I'm at your house, no matter where I'm at, I'm going to be me. And it took me a lot of years to get to that point.
Yes.
But I learned to be myself, not conform to who people wanted me to be, and that in certain situations. Right. So unapologetically, I'm authentic.
Come on, that's what I'm talking about. So because you're unapologetically authentic, can you share with us when did you first figure it out? Because you said it took you a while, right? But when did you first figure out who you were, and what did that process look like for you? Because we all go through different processes. It took me a minute. I think, I bumped my head a couple of times, and I figured it out. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is sweet, right? Especially when I came into it. So share when you first figured it out, and what did that process look like for you, Billy?
That's a good one. So for me, to be quite frank and honest, I would have to say it was about 3 to 4 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm 40.
Okay.
So it was around 35-ish, 36, maybe, when I realized I wasn't being myself.
Come on now.
And many people, let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Many of us think we are being ourselves, but we're not. We're being who we were taught to be.
Come on, say it again.
We're not being ourselves. We are being who we are taught to be. And when I say that, I'm gonna give you an example. So when you're a kid, let's go back. The best way to be yourself is to be the person you were, if you remember, when you're like 2 or 3 years old. That's when you're being yourself.
Absolutely.
Because once you start getting older, what's the first thing they say? Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yes.
And you're like, a firefighter. Think about it, kids. They say the most outrageous thing. I want to be an astronaut. Like, there's nothing wrong with these professions. They are obtainable. Right. But we name all these amazing things. Then as we get older, it gets chipped away, and it's like, no, we want you to be in finance. We want you to be in accounting.
Come on.
We want you to be a lawyer or a doctor. Like, you start getting groomed a certain way and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Then they go from, what are you going to do when you graduate? What are you going to college for? What are you going to do as a career? And they start slowly sliding you through what I call the pipeline of life.
Oh,
To
yeah.
where they send you to. And I'll give you an example how you know this.
Please.
When you go to college, you hear about, you look at the different degrees, and it's like finance management, hotel management, business management. Everything is management. You never see a course that says business ownership. You never see a course that says accounting ownership. You never see hotel ownership. It's always management. They're grooming you to manage somebody else's business or somebody else's dreams, basically.
Right.
So somebody out there has a dream, and they're going to teach you how to manage that dream. Because if you look at the top 10%, the top 10% own 90% of the stocks and assets and land and everything. So you mean to tell me the other 90% of us, we only get 10% because why? We're too busy managing theirs. So you're pushed through a pipeline of life and you think you're being yourself, and you're truly not. I can go even deeper because I remember I graduated, went into the military. The military was teaching me how to be a soldier for them. It wasn't necessarily teaching me how to be me.
Right.
And it was years later, and I was like, wow. The light bulb went off. I had great mentors, family members, loved one. And I'll get into that later and other questions, however they come up, I'll figure out a way to say it. But it's like something inside of you goes off. And what I try to do is open that something as soon as I can within individuals so they can start being themselves unapologetically.
Okay, awesome. No, I too, I get it when you say, like the military taught us how to be, and you're right. And for the years that we served, and while I'm at it, thank you for your service. I meant to go into that, but I got all excited.
Thank you
That
as
I
well.
missed that. Absolutely. Thank you for your service. And for me, it's what I know for you to honor to serve. But you were speaking about that, and that is so true. And sometimes even now, I bring back stuff that I was taught in the military, because some of it we just can't get rid of because it's ingrained in us.
Yes.
And so with that, I really appreciate you bringing that up. But here's what I want to ask you. How can we be our true self? Share with our audience, how can they be their true self or selves when the world is constantly trying to shape them? And you spoke about it, right? You say you're in this little pipeline into something else. What is it that they can do to not to say prevent, because it's coming, but not fall into that trap of being like someone else?
Ooh, I like that one. So the best way I can break it down, so I wrote about this in my book, Gift Seeker. The name of the book is Gift Seeker, Living Your Purpose. And the best way I can say to break it down is, you always hear people say, oh, your life's a story. Your life's a story, which is true. Your life is a story. The only problem is we aren't acting as the main character in our own story. We're letting other people write our story. And when you let other people write your stories, they control your life. So the best way I can explain to you about writing your story, it goes back, so when I say we were pushed through a pipeline, things I've learned in the military, those things, those lessons, you can use those. I'm not saying they were bad. You use them to help build who you are and recognize who you are. So when I say write your story, think about a story. You have your 5 main components, the 5 W's: the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why.
Yeah.
And so I use that to help individuals understand. So first you got to start with the who. We have to evaluate, who are you? Who are you as an individual? Not who society says you should be, or who, because we get caught up, we see social media, we depend on who we validate who we are based off the likes.
Right.
When
or friends, right?
It's like, that post didn't get likes, they don't like that. Like, no, don't worry about that. Who you are is who you are. And when I say that, if you didn't have to worry about money, if you didn't have to worry about social media, if you could just wake up every day and do what you love to do, what makes you happy, That's how we start to figure out who you are. You might want to get up every day and I want to paint. Or you might want to, I want to cook. Or you might, I want to clean. Whatever it is that you want to do every day, that starts to not just identify who you are, but it also identifies what your gift is. And then you go from the who to the what, like what drives you? What's your purpose? You connect to who you are, the gift, and that gift is what you use for your purpose. Yeah. When you are using your gift to live in your purpose, that's when you start to realize not only who you are, but you start to love life. And then you get into the when, the where, the why. The why is the biggest. The why is the thing that motivates you, that keeps you going. I call it inspire, because to motivate means the outside source keeps you going. But when you're connected with the thing that is your why, like for me, my why is my family. You might think outside source, but no, when you become one, when my wife got married, we became one. So that means our kids are part of us. So they are inside, they're my internal thing. That's what inspires me. So that's my why. For the other two, the when and the where, you have to go get the book. Yes. Live in your purpose.
And I see it, I actually have the book as well. So thank you for that wonderful gift. But I see it behind you on your bookshelf as well. Yes, it's there. And what I want you to do, if you can grab it real quick in between, and then give it, put it so people can see it, right? Because this is, they're not only listening, but they're also going to see it as well. There we go. Absolutely. And one of the things that I love what you said is the why. Like you start with the why. And so I mentioned earlier in the earlier session podcast about Simon Sinek, who said you start with why, right? And your why really speaks to what are you doing. And so actually it was the second episode. I wanted to share why does you are you unapologetically exist, right? And so I start with the why. So what I want to ask you now, because you gave those 5 W's, which is very, very important, but I want to ask, in what ways do you find it challenging to be yourself? Because, we all have, and not to say like all good days, all bad days, right? But, some days it can be a challenge. And for those, I would like you to share, what ways do you find it challenging to be yourself?
So before we dive into that, I laughed because you said that.
Come on.
Folks that don't know, you have to read this book that she just talked about, Simon Sinek's Why. That's it. You have to understand your why.
Yes.
Because that why, that understanding your why addresses the question that you just asked about being yourself. What do I find hard about being myself? So when I was growing up, and I'm saying that like I'm still not growing up because I don't care what you say, 40, I'm still young.
That's right. That's right.
Speaking of 40, when I said growing up, it was a saying that I don't know who said it, but I've heard it from different people, especially people in my life and mentors. They say when you're 20, you're worried about what they say. When you're 40, you don't care what they say. And then when you're 60, you realize that there is no they. It was all in your head the whole time. So I say that because I'm going to tie a lot back and forth into social media because I want everybody to get it. So on social media, you can post a picture and you'll be like, man, nobody's liking that picture. Instagram, for example, nobody likes the picture. But they have a feature on Instagram called Reels. You can upload a little quick video.
Okay.
And that same video, remember, you can see all the people that viewed it. And you can have thousands of views. I've done it myself. Thousands of views and get like 20 likes. Only 20 people out of 1,000 of views. And it shows you that they're watching you. Yeah. They just don't have anything to say about you. Oh. And so when I say, what I found hard about being myself, it's because many of us do it. We were living up to what others wanted us to be. Most of you do it every day when you go to work.
Yes.
You're trying to live up to what your boss or your supervisor wants you to be so you can get that next promotion, that next bonus, that raise.
Yeah.
Because you're living up to what they want you to be. But then I had to look at my why.
Come on.
Was I being who my family needed me to be?
Come on. Come on.
Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, my family's not going to be like, man, my dad was a great man because of how he did everything his supervisor told him to do.
Right.
They're not going to remember that. Half the time, your kids aren't even at work with you or out in the world with you. They're looking at you and they need to, because they say train up a child in the way they should go. And when they get old, they will not depart from it.
Right.
So if I'm training my kids up to be a version that somebody else wants me to be, I'm teaching them to be the version that somebody else wants you to be. And I'm gonna give you. I'm just gonna throw this snippet out there.
Come on, Billy, give it to us.
Think about your kids. If you have kids or loved ones, or if you don't, think about when you were a kid, and they taught you to share.
Yes.
You're playing with a toy. You have this toy. You're having fun, and little Billy or little Susie comes over, and they want your toy. And the first thing you hear is, "You need to share," and you give the toy away. You basically just taught your kid, or you were taught, to put somebody else's happiness before yours. You're having fun. You're happy with this toy, and you have to give it away to make somebody else happy. I'm telling you, you were being taught from day one not to be yourself. When instead the lesson should have been, okay, you're playing with the toy. Can we make some time limits of when you want to be finished with it and move on? Because you move on from things in life. And then we'll let the other little Billy or little Susie play with the toy. But we've been taught and trained, and I don't want to say brainwashed because you're not brainwashed, but you've been taught and trained to dim your light, as I said, or dim your happiness, dim who you are, so that you can please somebody else.
Yes.
And that's just how it's little things like share or ghost. Oh my goodness, we see this so much in families. That's your aunt, that's your uncle, that's your cousin. Go hug them. And why am I forcing you to hug them? If you don't want to say go hug and kiss on them, that doesn't mean I have to tell you to sacrifice your personal area, your personal circle, your mental mind frame to please them. And we do it so often that if everybody just was themselves authentically, then they would be happier for one, they would be themselves, and everybody would understand because we're all operating on the same frequency. But that's not happening. But we want to teach and reach as many people as we can to help them be who they are.
Absolutely. And so the point about, as you were saying about go hug your aunt, go hug it, and you're like, wow, like, and then especially when they knew them, when they were little kids, right? They recognized it, but then years went by and they don't know them, and they're like, really, they want to say, I don't know her, right? Or I don't know him, right? But they go over and they give the hug. I also wanted to touch on you mentioned earlier, like when we're about 2 or that's when we're like really in our true self, our element. And I shared on your show that something happens, right? Something happens where they're no longer in that space anymore. And what I shared was that at least 3 things happen, actually a minimum of 3, but there's so much more. There's so much more. And I call it covering up your greatness. Like, it covers up who you are. And I tell people, like, if you really want to see people in their element, who they really are, watch them from the age of, from 1, when they're starting to move all around, to the age of 5. And some of them may get to 7 before somebody says something to them, right? Or then after they say it, and here's the thing, is they say something to them that is contrary to who they are and how they're showing up. So that's the first thing that they're like, well, wait a minute. No, wait. So they got that going on. And then I mentioned it before, they say it to themselves, and then they turn around and they believe it. And so by the time they're in their tweens, right, between 12 and 11, 12, and they become a teenage 13, they're, like you said, they have been taught how to live for someone else, or live like someone else, or do what someone else is asking them to do. And we're not saying don't listen to your parents. We're not saying that at all. We're saying be mindful that you're your own individual, and there are some things that you like to do even at a young age that you're going to do But because our society, the way it shows up, or people in our lives shows up, we tend to shift and go in that direction. And I just want to point out, like, you mentioned your boss or your friends, but I also want to put out there, like, parents as well. We look for our parents' approval, and some of us are still seeking our parents' approval, and they're no longer in their teens anymore.
Yes.
They're young adults, or either adults, and not saying that their approval is not important. Parents will always have an influence on us, right? But then when their approval causes you to get stuck,
Yes.
and I would like you to share, and speak to that. When one of our, a parent's opinion, or it may not even be a parent, but speak to it, when how it impacts you, when you find yourself stuck.
So the thing I do to help even myself when you find yourself stuck like that is I love my parents, and I don't fault them for how I was raised, because the times that I was being raised,
Come on now.
they did the best that they
Yes.
can do during that time frame.
Yes.
Now we're in a different time frame. Generations change and all that. We turn new pages, turn new chapters, go into a different era. The lessons that they taught me don't necessarily all apply to today's life.
Right.
The same way the things that I'm teaching my kids, I can't raise my kids according to how I was raised, because this is a different time. I remember, for example, when you're growing up, back when I was growing up, to hear somebody say they made six figures, you're like, whoa, six figures? You're rich. I can't talk to my kids along that level, because they see people making millions. Now, whether or not they're all making millions, social media will lie to you.
Right.
But six figures is more of a norm today than it was when I was growing up. So when I say, as parents, and I'm talking to people out there that might be holding on to certain things that they went through with their parents, or being parents themselves, you have to be cognizant of what you say and you do.
Yes.
Like, you might be one of those individuals that are holding on to some things that your parents said or done. But the best analogy I can give it to you, think about when you're growing up and your parents are teaching you how to cross the street. First, they hold your hand. They got to keep you safe. They don't want you to get hit by cars, trip, fall. They want you to get to the other side of the street safely.
Yes.
Then as years go on, they start teaching you how to cross the street without holding their hand. They're sort of like, is a car coming? You look left, you look right. No, there's no car coming. They're like, okay, now we can cross the street. Then they stand on the curb and let you cross the street by yourself. And then it gets to the point where they're no longer around, and you just know how to cross the street by yourself without your parents, and you're going out into the world.
Absolutely.
So you have to use that same thing when you look at life. We want to live up to the standards that our parents set for us.
Yes.
But it was a point in that light in your life, the time frame is different from everybody, where they let your hand go, and they trusted you to go out into life. They trusted you to make those decisions, that what the things they instilled in you would help you prosper in life. So don't go around and just look and seek their approval, because they let your hand go. They want you to go out there and be prosperous. Do the things that you love to do. Do what they know you're capable of. Because last time I checked, you don't let somebody do something when you don't trust them to do the right thing.
Right.
Your parents trust you to do the right thing. And the same thing goes as if you have kids. You have to trust them to do the right thing. And the reason I say that, and also when I say be cognizant of what you say, I heard somebody, a parent, a mother and a son talking. And the son made a mess or something like that. And he was older too. He was like in his late 20s. He made a mess. He was like, oh man, just like you said, Mom, I messed it up again. Messy so-and-so. I can't think of the name. And the mom was like, what are you talking about? Like, and she was like, you used to always say I was messy growing up. And she was like, nah, I probably said that to you like 2 or 3 times in your entire life.
Wow.
And he was like, nah, I said it all the time. And then it clicked. You said it that one time, and it was in his head. Yep. So whenever he was growing up and he did something that was messy, regardless if you were there or not, he heard you saying it in his head. And he said it so much to himself that as he grew up, all he thought was you were always saying it to him. even though she only said it probably once or twice.
There you
So
go.
that's why you have to be cognizant of your words, cognizant of the things that that you allow into your mind. Because, for example, if you always allow negativity in your mind,
Come on.
regardless if somebody's saying it or not, you're always going to find a negative. You're going to find a negative.
Yes.
Because you allowed it in there. But if you find the positive, everything you see will be positive. So you have to be cognizant of that. So your parents want you to be great. Think hard. If you have something that has you thrown off in life, you got it in your head, we have to rewire your thinking. The same way we have to rewire all the other senses that caused you to live the life that others want you to live versus being who you're supposed to be. It's all about rewiring your thinking and doing what's best for you so that you don't look like me and you don't figure out what you're supposed to be or who you want to be when you grow up till you're in your 30s.
But that's okay, long as we get there, right? I was telling someone today, right? I was saying to someone that it's never too late. It's never too late. It's never too late. We just have to, do the work. It's self-work, literally. And that's what you're saying. So with that, I want to ask you, how has learning to love who you are, right? And like I say, fall madly, did I say madly? In love with who you are and accept yourself for who you are. How has that made your life better?
Oh my goodness, my life is amazing. For the simple fact, I call it control. I am in control of my life. And one of those things is you have to realize that you can't control situations, you can't control people, you can't control what nobody says or does. And we get so wrapped up in letting others control us that we get angry or sad or something like that. When you lose control of yourself, you basically give your control over to somebody else. And based on that control, like say somebody makes you angry, you get in anger and you're back into your feelings and they have control over your feelings. And when when you have somebody else in control of your feelings, it tends to hijack your logic. So you're not thinking correctly because you've given your control to somebody else. Yes. So once I learned who I was and started operating who I was according to the purpose that God has me here for,
come on,
I gained back my control and I don't give it away to others. Because when you give that control away, like I said, when we were talking about writing the book, if you give away your control, you basically giving somebody else the control of your life. So I got my control back. Now my life is amazing. I'm able to do and see things clearer because I don't get me wrong. I enjoy social media. I enjoy the things that happen in the world, but I look at them as a form of entertainment.
Yes.
And that's all it is. And once I realized it's just entertainment and I didn't let the entertainment brainwash me into thinking I had to keep up with they call it keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
I don't have to keep up with them. I keep up with myself. I have my own values. My family, we're doing great. I love it. And it all came back down to getting back control. In order to be who you're supposed to be, you have to take back control of your life. Because right now, somebody else might have control of it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And so thank you. So control is important, and knowing that's a key element in finding your, what I like to say, uncovering your greatness and finding your true identity so you can be who God created you to be. And so what I would like you to do is, before, I definitely would love for you to share with our audience how they can reach out to you, connect with you, because that's important. But I also would love for you to give like some closing remarks, but in that sense, please give, some advice, leave them with something that they can walk away with. You know how when we're like you're eating a sandwich and it's so good, and after you finish it, you can still taste it in your mouth, and you're still like, chewing as if you still have the food in your mouth, or that juicy peach, and it's running down, right? So let's give them, I would like for you to share and give them something that they will have to pontificate on after this show is over. And then please share, how can anyone who's listening to this podcast, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect with you? Because, I'm quite sure you impact them. So please share.
So to connect with me, social media, Billy Graham Jr. 365. You can catch me on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok, because I'm big on you're not gonna catch me on there dancing, but I believe that you have to go to where people are to reach them.
Exactly.
We had this thing growing up where you're like, and it happens so much there today. We try to get the younger generation to come to where we're at. And the way I view it is like, I know what it's like to be 15. I know what it's like to be 20, 25, 30, 40. I don't know what it's like to be 50. I don't know what it's like to be 60. Right. So I can't look up and be like, hey, I'm going to go do what they do when I don't know. Right. So the younger generation, they don't know what it's like to be 40. They're not here yet. Right. So I have to go down to where they're at and teach them and show them, meet them on their level and help them get there. So yes, I'm on TikTok as well. And you can also reach me through my website, which is also Billy Graham Jr. 365. I know you probably want, why the 365? Remember, I'm authentic.
Come on.
24/7, 365. It don't matter what you do. The 365, it can be your number. I don't care. It's my number as well. So year round, I'm gonna be authentic.
Year round.
So that's how you can get into contact with me. If I can leave you with something, the viewers, the wonderful viewers. I do have something. I will say, when it comes to being yourself, remember I said be authentic was me, and it can be you as well. But it's understanding that you're not a carbon copy. You're not a duplicate. There's only one you.
Yes.
But with that understanding of knowing that it's only one you, we can't let society put you in a box. Because most of us, we are in a box majority of our life. And it's impossible to be in a box. How can they conform you into one box when it's only one you? How do you fit the same dynamics of the person next to you? But then they tell you to think outside of the box. And it's like, I want you to understand that there is no box. It's just you. You're not a carbon copy. You don't belong in a box. There's no thinking outside of the box. There is no box. You create your own life. Remember, you're writing your own life story, and your life story doesn't end until the pen leaves the paper.
Come on.
You're in control of that pen. I call it bankrupting the cemetery. The cemetery is full of all these wonderful ideas, unwritten books, innovative ideas.
I love that.
Don't take your gift and what you are, because you're not a carbon copy. Don't take it to the cemetery with you. The time is going to come when we all must be called home, but you need to be empty when you leave. I believe in being empty when I leave, because I can't take this with me. I want to leave it for the next generation behind me. Yeah. So you're not a carbon copy. Be yourself. Do what you have to do for your life. Whatever your why is, follow it. Let it inspire you to be who you are.
Yes.
And again, that gift that you have inside of you, leave it for the world. That's why it's a gift. It's meant to be given away. It's not meant for you to keep it to yourself. So be who you are. Let the world see your light shine. Don't dim your light for anybody else. Let your light shine bright for the world, and be you unapologetically.
Come on now. That's what I'm talking about. So Billy, thank you so very much. Truly appreciate that you're being here, and the nuggets and the values and what you shared. We're honored. I'm honored. And I'm humbled by your presence. So thank you for coming on, saying yes to being on my podcast and sharing with our audience all of the juicy things that you shared. I feel like I'm, like trying to wipe the juiciness off of my face from what you shared with our audience. Again, thank you so much. Thank you. And you guys, Billy shared his information. Please reach out. You can reach out to him directly, or reach out, to me, and I'll do the introduction. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. And so thank you again, Billy. It's really good to have you here. And so I want to say, as we close this session, that again, it's easy. It is so very easy to lose yourself in today's challenging and clashing ideas, the conflicts, the belief, and then we have the pandemic, right? We have COVID-19. And so we know this is our society, rigid expectations that they put on us, and endless opinions and self-expression and self-appreciation. It becomes challenging and daunting to say the least. where most of the time you find yourself pushing or dumbing down or hiding or running away from a life, right? Or better yet, just going with the flow, like you're just there. So this show is about putting an end to this disparaging mindset, putting an end to it, and helping you to begin to own your authentic self, to be who you were created to be. And this is why we're here. This is why you are you unapologetically exist. We create this safe space so that you can come and listen to influential conversations and meet our guests who has walked your shoes or who are in your shoes right now. But this is all about you being you, because you are you. You are you unapologetically. And every time you show up, I'm going to encourage you to be you unapologetically. And here's why. Because what I know is this: there's no one, absolutely no one, who is better at being you than you.
Preach.
So be you unapologetically, because that is what it's all about. Thank you so very much for listening. I can't wait for you to join us on the next episode, and so that we can pour into you like we poured into you today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so grateful and humbled. And on that note, I'm going to bid farewell. Enjoy.
Thank you for listening to this episode. May this transformational discussion shift your mindset so you can live in possibility, so you can step higher in your greatness and stand bolder in your brilliance. Do not wait another minute. Start now to uncover your greatness and begin to fall madly, did I say madly, in love with you. The journey to unleashing and owning your true self doesn't end here. Be sure to subscribe to the show at KimRGrimes.com. Leave a rating and gear up for more conversations like this one. See you on the next episode. And remember, you are not a mistake. You are you, unapologetically.